Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 8th of March. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Jonny McFarlane. How are we getting on, Jonny?
Good, mate. Good, yes. Looking forward to an action-packed day, no doubt. Obviously, we're still waiting on the game on Thursday on Tenterhooks, and it's just a case of looking forward to that. I mean, that Aberdeen game at the weekend did not give us an awful lot to chew over, so yes, we will... We'll try and find topics to discuss. So if you've got any questions, fire them in because we're looking for some debate.
Yes, absolutely. Before we do that, of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, so many of you are now doing so thanks very much for that. If you hit that subscribe button, you'll never miss a video when we go live. And also, you've only got 1 day, well, 2 days now. It ends tomorrow to take advantage of a fantastic offer on the Rangers Review site. Only £1 for 2 months worth of content. It really is a cracking deal. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. I'd like to cover Rangers like no one else in the media is doing so at the moment. So I'd urge you all to go and check it out on the Rangers Review site. Okay, let's talk Rangers then, Jonny. Before we start looking ahead to Thursday night, of course, it's a huge game at Ibrox on the horizon. You mentioned the Aberdeen game at the weekend. You wrote a piece for the website yesterday, which sort of tells us why Rangers are struggling, if you like, and are now playing catch-up to Celtic in the league. And it's in terms of the final third, where they're clearly struggling in front of goal. Can you tell us, give us a little bit of insight into your piece that you wrote yesterday? Yeah,
absolutely, Derek. I mean, it's going to sound like, if you don't listen to the nuance of my point, that I'm having a pop at Alfredo Morelos here, and I'm absolutely not. I'm a big fan of Alfredo Morelos. But here's the facts, okay? Season 17-18, he scored 14 league goals. 18-19, 17 league goals. 19-20, 12 league goals. And 20-21, 11 league goals. Now, this season, I think he's on 12. I think what we've seen here is Alfredo Morelos is not the striker that's going to score you the goals that's going to win a title. If you rely on Morelos in domestic competition to blast you past teams, you're in trouble. And I feel at the moment, the way Rangers are set up, in terms of the goal contributions, the club is utterly relying on Alfredo Morelos. And he's not that guy. You know, I've talked about his finishing over and over again on this podcast. I don't think he's a good finisher, personally. I don't think he's calm. I think he snatches at shots. I think he blasts shots. Kemar Roof, for example, is a much better finisher. That's not to say I don't think Alfredo Morelos is a huge part of Rangers. He absolutely is. But my point is that if he's going to be the main man, you need to put goals all around him. Because he's not going to be the guy. The evidence is there that he's not going to blast you 25 goals a season. He never has. So Rangers need a Ryan Kent to score 15 goals a season. Ryan Kent scored 2.
Yeah.
You need a Fashion Sakala, if he's playing on the right, to score 15, 20 goals a season. I mean, he's done all right, Fashion Sakala, to be fair, because he's been in and out, scored 7. But outside of that, there's no one else really contributing an awful lot of goals. I think Joe Aribo's got 7. James Tavernier, who takes the penalties, has got 6. There's not that spread. Scott Arfield has 4. And to me, that is a major problem. You see that Celtic are massively outscoring Rangers. Certainly at the start of the season, they were blasting lots of goals. It's dried up a little bit now, as you might expect, given the pitches and such like. But Steven Gerrard took Rangers to 55 on the back of, for me, him and his coaching staff realising that they needed to get more numbers in and around the front areas of the team. They got Kemar Roof in, they got Yanis Hadji in, who is a numbers machine, and he has been a big loss. But here's the truth, guys. When a player goes out, like a Yanis Hadji, that's you losing a certain amount, and you need to replace that. Otherwise, there's going to be a diminishment in output. And for me, that's what's happened. They haven't replaced Hadji. Roof has hardly played. They've got 9 goal contributions between the two of them this season. Last season, they had 34. 34. 34. We're in March. They have 9. So the problem is there's too much reliance on Morelos for me. And that I see Scott McCready makes a great point there. He's a little bit like Kenny Miller, Derek, if you can put that one up. Morelos, and that's absolutely true, he's a great finisher when he doesn't have time to think about it. But when he does have time, and sometimes he does in Scotland, he doesn't always have the calm, cool, ice cold, Chris Boyd style nature in front of goal. And listen, I want to stress, guys, and I hope you're not feeling like this is an attack on Morelos. I think the guy's brilliant. You look at what he's done in European football. You look at what Ryan Kent gives in European football. It's phenomenal. But in domestic competition, I'll just say it again. These stats, to me, 14 goals, Alfredo Morelos in his first season, then 17, then 12, then 11, and he's got 12 so far this season. A Rangers number 9 needs to be doing 20 to 30 goals every year for me, if you're going to be relying on them to get you the goals that fire at the title. And that's what this piece was about. And I hope there's a lot of people out there that agree with me, because I feel that this is going to be one of the big things for the rebuild next year, Derek. I realise I'm going on a massive monologue here, but I'm going to try and wrap it up soon. If Rangers are going to rebuild, they have to rebuild with serious numbers in and around Alfredo Morelos if he's going to be retained in the team. It's that simple. And if Rangers don't win the league this year, it's because of this issue for me, that this lack of goals. And we've seen the last 4 games that Rangers have played. They've had 2 games where they were brilliant and created loads of chances, didn't score enough. And then we've had 2 games where they didn't really create an awful lot. They still didn't score enough. You know, the problem is goals. And I just think that's becoming more and more obvious since the winter break.
Yeah, a lot of comments coming in. You mentioned there Chris Boyd, Johnny. Rangers do miss that poacher who's guaranteed 20, 25 goals, as CGM55 says. It would be on that amount of goals. Now, they did have a goal scorer in the squad that they allowed to leave in January, in Jermaine Defoe. I still think he could have done a job. I think he could have been on at least double figures this season with the amount of chances that Rangers create. There's no doubt about it. But for whatever reason, he wasn't fancied by Steven Gerrard this season or by Giovanni van Bronckhorst when he arrived as well. So, but that's by the by. They need to deal with it the here and now. Cedric Ayton, of course, has been given an opportunity. Let's be honest, he's not Rangers quality, and I can imagine that he'll be on his way come the summer. And then you are looking at the likes of Morelos and Roof, but like you say, Morelos, he's never a 20-goal a season striker in the Scottish Premiership. You can't rely on him. So you are looking at the likes of, we've touched on this yesterday, Joe Rebo, for me, has to do a bit more. And it seems harsh saying that because he was outstanding before he went to the African Cup of Nations. But since he's came back, he's looked off the boil. Maybe wanting more from Scott Arfield. I know he's played a lot of games. He has looked rather jaded as well. And you're spot on about Ryan Kent. Now, there's no doubt about it. I've got no concerns that he's going to turn up and do the business on Thursday, may even score and set up goals. But it's that transition, Johnny, isn't it, from Europe to domestic matters, which Rangers have found difficult, that's for sure.
I think we just have to accept that Ryan Kent is a player that's more suited to playing in a different style of team than Rangers. Because when Rangers go into Europe and they're more of a counter-attacking team, he looks brilliant. I mean, you can count the times on your one fingers when Ryan Kent, on your one hand, sorry, one fingers, what am I talking about? You can count the amount of times on one hand how often Ryan Kent has let Rangers down in big games. He always turns up for the big games. Okay, Parkhead, yes, not great. But that apart, he has been really, really good. And I just don't think there's any doubt about what Ryan Kent can deliver when he's got space to run into. But I don't think his game is trying to break down a low block. I think we've seen that over and over again. He performs better against better opposition. He was better against Dortmund than he was against Ross County. It's just, it's just the way his game is set up. So I think everyone is frustrated at Ryan Kent's numbers. Ryan Kent will be really frustrated at Ryan Kent's numbers. There's no doubt about that. But this is a big challenge for Giovanni van Bronckhorst as a manager in terms of how to get goals from other areas other than Morelos. and it looked like he'd cracked it with one sitting midfielder and two running off. But it's dried up, isn't it, Derek? I mean,
yeah,
it's as simple as that. Now,
yeah.
Ross Wilson, if he was watching this, he would probably say, well, we went out and brought in Amad Diallo, who on paper should have been a brilliant signing, and Aaron Ramsey, who is that guy that you're talking about from midfield as a goal-scoring midfielder who should come to Scotland and be a cut above. And yeah, I get that there's been a bit of bad luck there in terms of form and injury. Certainly no one was criticising the signings on the last day of the transfer window, that's for sure, and we weren't. Yeah. So we have to hold our hands up to that and say that's a fair point. But I think it's a issue now, to be honest. I don't think Rangers have missed ridiculous chances in the last 4 games. They missed a lot of chances against Dundee United, but a lot of them were half chances.
Yeah.
You know, and especially in the last 2 games, there's not been out and out bloopers by the strikers. Morelos had no service whatsoever against Aberdeen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is the crux of the issue for me with this season. I think there's a comment there about Itten, bringing Itten back. I personally disagree with that. I don't think it was a mistake to bring him back because, you know, at the time Rangers were really short, and if Morelos had gone out, it would have been a difficult one.
He's got decent attributes. It just hasn't worked.
But it hasn't worked. It's all. I mean, I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst took a look at him and thought, no, I don't fancy him.
Yeah.
And listen, that's the same conclusion that I think we've come to. Yeah. And that's a deal that I think is going to hang over Scott Wilson, Ross Wilson's head a little bit, because I've never been impressed by Cedric Itten. I've got to be honest. I've never been impressed by him. I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but the lad just doesn't look like a Rangers player, and that's a difficult one. So yeah, I think there needs to be an overhaul in this squad in the summer. We all knew that. That's nothing. No, there's no exclusive there. That's obvious given the players that are going to be out of contract, Derek. But I think this issue around Morelos is going to have to be addressed. If he stays, they need to find a way to find players in and around him who can make up the shortfall in the goals.
Yeah. There's an interesting point by Scott Kearney. We keep going on how Rangers are playing. We have to take into consideration how teams play against us. And he's right. I mean,
yeah,
it's such a welcome relief, the European stage, because teams actually have a go, and it's good to watch 2 teams going at each other. Whereas, as we've seen at the weekend, Aberdeen, the lowest XG of the season, 0.09. Teams just cut me Ibrox and sit in, and it's a right, of course. They want to come away with a point. If they open up, they might get picked off. But as a spectacle, Johnny, it's dire, isn't it?
It is. But it's always been thus, Derek. I mean, I look back to when I was a kid growing up and watching teams, and it was exactly the same when you went to Ibrox. Teams would sit in, they would try and be defensive as possible, spring on the counter-attack, maybe get a set piece. It's long been the way of it. If you think back to the team that won 9 in a row, it was quite formless at times. It wasn't very tactically sophisticated. And that was from Walter Smith, a guy who was capable of tactical sophistication. But what he tried to do was pack the team with players who could produce moments that would unlock the door. And that's why that team would go away in Europe and you'd be like, it's bursting with talent. But average teams like Strasbourg and teams like that would pick, and Grasshoppers would pick Rangers off under Walter Smith in those days, because they were created to be a team that broke the block. And you had to be a certain style of team to do that. And what this Rangers team are, and this is fundamental to the team since Gerrard took it over, is a counter-attacking team. And that's why they're doing well in Europe and at times struggling with the same old situation in domestic competition. And I think if you look at Ange Postecoglou's setup over at Celtic, I think that's actually more suited to breaking down the block that you face every day in Scotland and less suited to Europe. So to me, it's no surprise to see Celtic performing less well in European competition than Rangers. But so far this season, domestically performing better than Rangers in the domestic competition, having won the Betfred Cup and being 3 points clear in the league. Because they really, really do swarm forwards and throw men into the box and throw attacks. And if you watch Celtic, and this is difficult from a Rangers point of view to hear, but the truth is, the last 5-10 minutes, Celtic look, if you watch them, they always look like scoring. Rangers, to be honest, a lot of the time, you're watching that Aberdeen game, let's put cards on the table. Did many of us think that the goal was coming? Because I have to say, when I was watching the game, I couldn't see where the goal was coming from.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference between these two sides. And we're talking about margins in the title race. I still think Rangers have got a better 11 than Celtic.
Yeah.
I mean, they proved that against Dortmund, but this is why style and tactics and all these things are important.
Yeah. An interesting point made by a few. Louise touches on it. She says the thing is the players are probably getting bored of each other. I mean, the whole new team, the players are always tired. I think that she's right in a sense there, Johnny. It needs a refresh, doesn't it? And like you said, in the summer, it could be some major surgery is required. And Giovanni Van Bronckhorst bringing in his players, the players that he wants to create a Rangers team.
100%. And that's a great point, I think. That the modern day footballer doesn't stay at clubs for long. This is just the way of life. I mean, Alfredo Morelos, 5 years at Rangers, you're getting to sort of testimonial territory. That's there, in terms of the modern day. It's quite remarkable for a foreign player.
Yeah.
But people like Ryan Kent, Joe Aribo, if they don't sign a contract, you have to ask yourself, do they see their long-term future in Scotland at Ibrox? And, I think we'll find out the answer to these questions around the players with a year left in the summer.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of players with a year left. I keep stressing this, but it's really important. Ryan Kent, Yanis Hadji, Joe Aribo, all these guys, all these top quality players, Alfredo Morelos, 1 year left on their contract. So it's stick or twist at that point, because if you try and sell them in January, you're going to get buttons. Really, the summer represents the last time you can cash in.
Yeah.
I think, as I've said before in this video, I think that if one of them was to stay, I would say that the more likely one is Alfredo Morelos. But I suspect that we'll see a massive turnover in the summer, regardless.
Yeah.
And I think a number of these players are going to leave.
Yep. Finally, John, I just wanted to touch on something else. I mean, Stephen Davis is a player that we've not seen for some time. I can't remember the last time he actually played for Rangers. However, Philip Linz got in touch. He says, is Stephen Davis going to get a coaching role? What's your thoughts? For me, I would have no hesitation in offering him a role behind the scenes if he wants to do that. I think his experience would be absolutely vital. I still think he's got a role to play for the title running, but whether we see him or not remains to be seen. Do you think we'll see him on the pitch, Johnny? And would you have any qualms about keeping them on and sort of as a backroom staff?
I think it's a bit baffling, the whole thing with Stephen Davis, because I think he's been pretty good this season. He's not been as good as he was last season. You can apply that to everyone. Stephen Davis has always, to me, looked like a guy who would be crucial to that Rangers midfield this season because of his ability to create from deep.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see him, if he's back fit, to get a few chances in the team to show what he can do, because we know that he is creative. And that's what Rangers need, fundamentally. In terms of a coaching role, I think it's really important, and I've long felt this, that Rangers, in terms of their appointments within the structure of the club, try and have a best policy. So if you have a coaching role, not just to take ex-players and say, well, they know the club, they know what it means to be a player, get them in, but then there's a better coach out there who might have been better suited for the role. Having said that, Derek, one of the most successful youth coaching setups in the world is Ajax, and their entire setup is predicated on getting ex-players who understand the club, who know the demands in, and making sure that they are part of that system. So I think it's a balance that's important in terms of the youth setup, that there is these best in availability class individuals coming in, and also you're peppering that with guys who understand the ethos, understand the philosophy, but then also are able to impart some of the knowledge about what it means to play for Rangers, but not only what it means, tangibly what it's like, because we know playing for Rangers is different to playing for a lot of clubs. The pressure to win every single game, the way the crowd reacts to certain situations, how you're going to go and face these type of teams that set up in a certain way against you. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies to how that plays out. And I think it's important to have guys in there who can offer that knowledge and understanding, having been through it themselves.
Yeah, and I totally agree with CGM 55 here. He says Davis should play every game purely so he stands on the back post at corners. The amount of clearances amount of balls he's cleared away from that position, Johnny, is quite staggering. I think Rangers have conceded a few goals as a result of that when he's not been on the post. So I'm always one for sticking men on the post. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've got to say I'm naturally inclined towards that, Derek, although I do know that there's lots of discussion in coaching circles about the merits and demerits of it in terms of loading the box and getting players up the pitch and all the rest of it. Different coaches have different opinions on it. I always remember Ali McCoist. I used to slaughter him when he was the manager because he would always have every player back in the box. Mark Warburton would leave 3 up. It was a completely different style, and different managers have different likes and dislikes in terms of corners. And it's always interesting to see the mix. But yeah, I think overall, Derek, I'm kind of a bit old-fashioned. I always stick with the idea of man marking, because then it's easy to identify where the mistake's been made.
Yeah,
and I do like players at least one player on the line as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the programme as ever. It's very much appreciated. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, just hit the subscribe button. That means that you'll never miss a video when we go live. And you've only got today and tomorrow to take advantage of our tremendous offer on the Rangers Review site. Just £1 for 2 months worth of content. I'd urge you all to head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe and get yourselves signed up to that. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.